Welcome to the first ever episode of Platypod Perspectives. This is where we reach out and talk to pro photographers, in most cases, platypod pros. And today it's Bob Coates from Arizona. He's got a great background in photography, all kinds of different photography, but I got to pick out my favorite shot that I've seen of his recently, and it is a Milky Way shot. The reason I love this so much is because, well, first of all, in Florida, we don't have these gorgeous Milky Way options. And I love this image, but it's a vertarama, a vertical panorama. So it took multiple shots over an extended period, and you see the two different horizons there. You see ahead and then behind, and it's just amazing to me how you could possibly do this. So please welcome to this show, Bob Coates. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Larry, thank you. Appreciate being here.
All right, so I need to understand, and I'm going to step away a little bit. I'm going to turn things over to you so that you can explain. I understand there was a big process behind this. It took months to get to the right location at the right time and so on. And I'll let you unpack all that and then talk a little bit about the tech too.
Yeah, Larry T challenged me, and Larry T is the inventor of the Platyball and the Platypod and all this great gear we get to work with. And he challenged me to do vertoramas, and that would be where you're taking an image from the front and going all the way up over the sky and back behind you. And so I did those in a cathedral and did some outside. And Larry said, "Hey, could you do that with the Milky Way?" And I went, I like a challenge. So it took me about 6 months to put this together because I had to go to different places and scout this out. And, I kept looking at places because you need some place in front of you, you need some place behind. And it was quite difficult to do that. Then you have, is the Milky Way standing straight up? Is it the clouds there, the moon? So you got to put all these pieces together. So I was finally able to have everything come together. It was great.
Well, okay, so there's also tech behind this. And so you found the place, and you found the place with the right weather. And then you had to take multiple shots. So how many shots and what kinds of exposures are we looking at?
Well, let's take a look at my screen and I'll show you. I was able to do 8 images. The 8 images are all shot in a horizontal format. So this is in front of me and then going up over my head. And then this ends up being behind me. And then these are all stitched together in Photoshop. Now, one thing that I do when I'm processing these images is to go ahead and take the images and rotate them before I ask Photoshop to do the stitching. And it makes it much easier that way. All right, let's go take a look at the full image. So this is the complete image. So this is directly in front of me.
Just by itself, that's a great image.
Okay, and then as we go up, the Milky Way, more Milky Way, more Milky Way. Guess what? More Milky Way. The Milky Way does go around us in a complete circle, so this is not unusual, but the fact that we're capturing it in one image is, and then there's the horizon behind me.
Wow. That's just incredible. That's incredible. There's the final image. It's just beautiful. I can imagine what kind of amazing print this would be. I want it in a hallway in my house.
Especially if you have an arched hallway. Ooh.
There you go. That would be cool. So what time of day or night was this?
This is about I was out there from midnight till about 2 o'clock in the morning through 2:30, somewhere in there.
There's a lot to this that we don't even have time to go into here, but you actually teach Milky Way photography, don't you?
I do. Successful-photographer.com, and you can see my Milky Way and night sky photo workshops. When we were talking about some of the kit, this is the Platyball. These are the things that made it easier for me to create this image. So number one, we have the Platyball, and the Platyball enables you to really have a strong hit. So when I lock that down with those little squeezes, that thing lives right there.
Yeah.
When we look here, one of the things that you want to do is you want to be able to rotate the camera around the central point, around the light entry point of the camera itself.
I see.
So here's the center of the Platypod, and then the lens, where the light comes in the lens, not where the lens sensor is, but where the light entry point is, and you want that to be the pivot point in order for Photoshop to be able to stitch it much better. Now, one of the nice things about the Platypod is it has a little tensioner where we can pivot because that area is above the ball head. When you just turn this, it's still in the same place.
Yeah, you couldn't do that with a standard ball head at all.
No, you would have to be rotating the ball head, and then you would work, things would get out of kilter. But anyway, this works really well, and we're able to, make all these different adjustments. So what I did was, so this is where the camera's pointing originally, and now I'm doing an image there, kicking it up, overlapping by about 50%, and then making an image, and then just kicking it up just a little bit. And because I've got a little bit of tension on here, I don't have to keep adjusting it. I can just move it to the next position and it stays there. Next position, maybe a little tighter from there. Next position, and then we've captured our 8 images. Now, to get the lens over top, a nodal rail can be a little bit helpful for that, and can save you some hassle. It's not absolutely necessary, but it makes it easier for your software to stitch the image. Oh, and one thing that I'd like to mention is I tried this with a 7mm lens, which in my case, since I'm shooting on the Olympus Micro Four Thirds, that would be the equivalent to a 14mm full frame look. The software had a hard time with that. The edges all kind of rounded up. So this lens was a 12mm, turned out to be 24 in the equivalent of the full frame world, and that seemed to be what worked really well.
Bob, that is some incredible behind the scenes as well, but just a wonderful finished image. I've been impressed by this all along, and I would love to join up with you at one of your workshops at some point. People can find out more about that online. One more time, what's the web address? successful-photographer.com. And then there's a page just for the Milky Way and night sky. And then there's also a frequently asked questions page that has a lot of information when people say, well, what camera gear should I use? Or what do I need to bring? That's all answered on the website, which is really helpful. Very good. Bob, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really do appreciate it. And I can't tell you how impressed I am with the Platypod Pros, and Bob specifically, in this Milky Way shot. Well, that was a little bit of behind the scenes from some amazing photography from a Platypod Pro, Bob Coates. Join us again next time for more behind the scenes great information about how you can take impressive shots leveraging that Platypod gear.